Right, hi guys, welcome to the very first video, very first film that we're making for the YouTube channel. I wanted to kick off with something simple for you guys. Something that really annoys me actually is the proliferation of pasta sauces everywhere, usually quite expensive, usually pretty rubbish, and don't taste very nice. And anyway, so I wanted to start with something simple. So today we're just going to do a really basic tomato sauce, 4 ingredients only, and we're going to do it with some linguine. So without further ado, we'll crack on, and we're doing it in real time today, so I reckon we're about 10 minutes, something like that. First of all, I've got some water boiling over here, so you'll see, save money, save energy, save the planet. I've covered the water boiling there with well, not a lid, this is a bit of a rustic enterprise here. I've covered it with a tray. Anything can be a lid when you're in a push. I'm going to season the pasta water, very important. There we are, good slug of salt in there. And I'm going to the pasta. There we go. So worth trying at home. If you don't open your spaghetti or linguine as I'm using today like that, you definitely should give it a whirl. It is far more satisfying than it's got any right to be. So I'm using linguine today. I'm using, I reckon, just under half a pack, and I'm feeding just 2 today. So me and the cameraman are going to have a wee feast shortly. So just under half a pack of pasta. When I put the pasta in the pot, I'm going to sheaf it out like this, and that just helps with the cook. Okay, let that soften a little bit, and then I'm going to poke it down. What I don't want to do is snap the pasta, so you always want to use as large a pot as you can for your pasta, and you always want to have a good volume of water in there as well. Okay, so while the pasta is boiling, we are going to chop some garlic. So four ingredients in this dish only. Easiest, simplest pasta dish known to man. So I've got quite big fat cloves of garlic here, so I'm just going to use the one. If you're a garlic fiend, you can use more, but I think the one should be about right. So here we are. I'm not fine dicing it. I'm not using a razor blade like they do in Goodfellas in that prison scene. You know, this is just a fairly sort of rough chop on that garlic, 1 clove, and I'm going to put in here, I reckon about a tablespoon of olive oil, something like that. Okay, and that's cold olive oil, cold garlic into a cold pan, not on. Okay, so before I heat that up, I'm going to blitz up the tomatoes, the third of our ingredients that we're using. So you can buy a passata, which is an already blended tin of, you can buy passata, which is already blended tomatoes. I don't really like the flavour of it. I always find that passata's got, I don't know, maybe it's the cheap rubbish passata I buy, but anyway, I always find it's got a bit of an aftertaste, a bit of something chemically there, so I prefer to blitz my own. So all I do is just a tin of tomatoes and just blitz it up. So this we're making for 2 of us today, so 1 tin of tomatoes to just under half a packet of pasta. That's great. If you're doing for 4 of you, you'd probably do, I don't know, close to a packet of pasta, 2 tins of tomatoes. That would do you nicely. There we are. So I'm not too worried. I'm not going to be too obsessive about the tomatoes being blended and blitzed within an inch of their lives. If you've got somebody at home that's a little bit fussy around bits and things like that, you know, you could maybe blitz it for a bit longer, but I'm quite happy if I've got some bits in there. So what I'm going to do now is bring the garlic and the olive oil to temperature. I'm looking, I don't want to colour the garlic, so I'm not looking for the garlic to be browned, but I'm looking to take it to a point where it's just starting to colour. So I'm listening for a bit of a sizzle. The eagle-eyed among you as well will notice I'm using the same spoon for the pasta and for the sauce here. This is largely laziness. I'm not a fan of washing up, so the less spoons, the less pans, the less washing up, the better it is for me. No issues food-wise. It's all the same dish, it's all the same stuff, so I'm quite happy using the same spoon. Here we are. So you can see the garlic is sizzling away. I've got this on a high temperature here. And the only thing to be wary of is when I put the tomato sauce in, with this sort of high temperature, it will splash and it will go everywhere. So when you're cooking this out, at home, you want your heat to be somewhere between your sauce going everywhere and it actually doing something, you know? So have it as high as you can possibly stomach without the tomato splashing and going everywhere. So for my filming here, we're about, I'd say we're about 3/4 of the power on an induction hob. So I'm just going to give this a wee stir. I'm then going to season this. I'm going to season it with Maldon salt, just because I've got that to hand. Other kinds of salt are available. Other really important thing to note as well is that when you put the tomato in the pan, first of all, you've got a dark red colour. You've got that sort of raw, dark tomato colour. As the sauce cooks, you're aiming for this to have a sort of orangey, lighter red colour. So that's your first sort of indicator that your sauce is ready and is what you're looking for. The other thing as well is I'm doing this in a frying pan. I'm actually doing this in quite a small frying pan. I wish I was doing it in a bigger one now. You could do this in anything. It doesn't have to be in a frying pan. You could do this in a saucepan quite easily. If you're doing pasta for 4 of you, 6 of you, 8 of you, you know, you definitely want to use something bigger. And you want to use something bigger because once the pasta's cooked, we're going to stir the pasta through the sauce. So that kind of helps with that. So I'm going to keep an eye on the pasta here. I looked at the packet instructions earlier and I think it was about 10 minutes, but I tend to just go by feel. So if I can get a strand out. Okay. So those of you who don't have asbestos hands, you might want to use some tongs or something. All I'm doing is just taking a bit, just having a wee taste. I don't want this soft or anything like that. I want it with a little bit of bite, but that's too hard for me. That's just got a little bit too much bite on it. So I'm going to cook that out for a further couple of minutes, and that should be about that. While that's cooking, I'm going to chop a little bit of parsley, and I'm using flat leaf parsley here. I'm doing this largely for flavour rather than a garnish and a look. So all I'm doing is just giving this a bit of a chop up. It does bring it to life. If you've got any parsley sort of growing at home, if you've got some parsley kicking around, it certainly brings a dish like this to life. If you're using garlic, using parsley is a good way of neutralising that garlic. Gets it off of your breath, all that sort of stuff. But most importantly, the most important reason I'm using the parsley in this is the flavour. It's a real flavour giver. You know, it's not absolutely essential. You could absolutely do this pasta dish without parsley. You're going to have a lovely tomato sauce. But if you've got a bit of parsley, it does lift it. Other things to say as well is that this tomato sauce is just a base. You could easily zhuzh this up. If you, right at the beginning when we were frying the garlic, if you, at that point, fried some bacon in there, some chopped up bacon, and a little bit of onion instead of the garlic, you make a nice alla matriciana. Just follow the same process again with the tomato going in. So I'm going to check the pasta again. Almost there. 2 seconds. I'll just fish around for some tongs. Now, I think it's really important if you're making this at home. I've not seasoned it yet, but I urge you to do what I'm just about to do, which is to taste the tomato sauce before you season it, and then taste it after you've seasoned it. The reason I'm suggesting you do that is just so you understand what a role salt plays in bringing out the sweetness of food. Which sounds a bit counterintuitive, but it does work. a good sprinkle of sea salt. I'll give this another stir through. Tell you what folks, me and the cameraman are in for a treat. Right, so pasta's ready. We'll take him off. Beauty of using induction is you at least don't have to use tea towels to cover your, to pick it up. Now we've got quite a saucy sauce, if that makes any sort of sense. It's not a particularly dry sauce, so I'm not worried about retaining the pasta water. I would say to you, a good tip is when you're draining your pasta, if you leave it above the pan that you've been cooking it in, the pasta water you've got in there you can reserve and you can use that in sauces. So there are 1,001 sauces that go well with pasta, olive oil based sauces and such like. If they're starting to run a little bit dry, you can easily add your pasta water in. That's a good way of loosening it. So, here we are, we'll toss that through. Add a little bit of parsley. And then we're going to bowl them up. There we go. We'll just kill the beeping. And we've got a linguine. Linguine napoletana. A little bit of parsley on the top. And we'll finish up with a little bit of a sprinkle of parmesan. There you go, lads. Enjoy. Right, thanks for watching folks. Please like, comment and subscribe and we'll see you again soon. Cheers.